Penguin Random House Audio presents A Practical Way to Get Rich and Die Trying, a memoir about risking it all. This is the author, John Roa. This book is for my parents. None of this was your fault. You did great. Introduction. I'm excited to share this story with you. I'm also quite petrified, as I'm about to tell strangers all about my crazy life, wildest proclivities, and darkest secrets. Well, too late now. So much for being a private person. At the age of 26, I was dead broke and ready to give up on my life goal of being an entrepreneur. At 29, I was a millionaire and running one of the fastest growing companies in America. 2 years later, I sold my company and my mind was ruined. To you, my story may be entertaining, motivational, demotivational, funny, unbelievable, familiar, sad, or absurd. That depends on your perspective. All I can promise you is that it's honest. A true account of how one young man navigated his way through the painful yet powerful lessons of success. It's the type of story I wish I could have heard a half a lifetime ago as I prepared for my own entrepreneurial journey, rather than yet another whitewashed bullshit memoir on what reaching the top in business supposedly looks like. I've always thought of myself as a pretty normal guy. I grew up in the Midwest with 3 siblings and a loving family. We didn't have a ton of money, but we did have a golden retriever and presents under the Christmas tree. Having my life defined by high-stakes entrepreneurship wasn't exactly my plan. I had never met another entrepreneur in my youth, and frankly, didn't even know there's a term for people like me who love hustling, doing deals, solving problems, and taking risks. I dove down that rabbit hole, and what happened next was anything but normal. For better or worse, society today is defined by tech entrepreneurship. Technology has changed how we communicate, find love, travel down the street, stay in touch with friends, and battle disease. No other industry produces more billionaires and billion-dollar returns. It's virtually the only industry in which anyone with a good idea can go on to change the fabric of the world in a matter of years and become incomprehensibly wealthy. It's the modern-day gold rush, except that the prospectors of the 1850s knew that when they went west, they likely weren't coming back, at least not with their physical and emotional health intact. Today, we prefer to keep that possibility a secret. No one wants to talk about the price we entrepreneurs pay in the pursuit. Entrepreneurship is a wide-ranging topic. God bless the ambitious individuals who set up a hot dog stand or take over a small family business, but that's not who I'm talking about in this memoir. My subject is on those who go for glory and are willing to leave limbs on the field in their pursuit. The maniacs who trade safety, sanity, and sensibilities for a shot at becoming rich and even famous, or for a chance to permanently change the world. That's the lens that formed the foundation for this book that made me ask, what really makes an entrepreneur? What separates us from normal people? Are we as crazy as we seem? Or is it the current culture of entrepreneurship that forces us to do crazy things to succeed? And finally, what did I really learn from my journey? This is a raw, behind-the-scenes look at my path to prosperity at a tender age, with all of its flaws and absurdity. Other successful entrepreneur stories will differ from mine, but based on numerous private conversations with my self-starting brethren, the core themes of what I experienced are far more common than you may think. Winning in this game isn't necessarily clean, dignified, or healthy, and that must be accepted and acknowledged. My biggest issue with the narrative of success today is that in business, we are pressured to always look strong and godly, even during difficult periods. This quickly becomes a toxic model that aspiring entrepreneurs are forced to emulate, and then when they struggle, which is inevitable, they are led to believe they're the only ones doing so, or that they're somehow doing it wrong, because everyone else makes it look so easy and graceful. In every single business memoir I've read, the author somehow makes even the worst aspects of the job sound aspirational. I believe we could benefit from illuminating the realities of this closely guarded world. Rather than the never-ending books and films that have been carefully manipulated to perpetuate dangerous myths about business and success, I think there should be a candid discussion of some hard truths. Let's talk about why entrepreneurs have 60% more mental health issues than the general public, or why the suicide rate amongst youth in Silicon Valley is 4 times the national average. Let's talk about the culture that encourages us to risk everything in the pursuit of success and whether that's the right attitude. The predominant culture in startups today doesn't even try to disguise itself. Move fast and break things is the mantra of the startup founder. Fake it till you make it is our rallying cry. Do whatever it takes to succeed is the unspoken golden rule. No pain, no gain is motivating only until you consider how toxic that guidance is. Entrepreneurs are incentivized to put personal wellness aside, manipulate the truth, take outsized risk, and cheat where necessary in order to win. The worst part of this mindset is that we also lie to ourselves. We become so accustomed to our perceived worlds that they can become a new reality. We end up believing our own bullshit, further blurring the lines between what is real and what is not. We exist in a perpetual reality distortion field. This delusion makes us isolate ourselves, ignore warning signs, build on artificial confidence, and push ourselves and the people around us too far. And if things go bad, we are suddenly confronted with a mountain of decisions we shouldn't have made and lies we must face, and only then do we become aware of the consequences. Imagine being told there's a pot of gold atop a huge mountain in front of you. Even though you can't see the summit, you think to yourself, I bet I can climb that. You take no consideration of safety or risk, no gear, no net. You just start climbing. That is entrepreneurship in a nutshell. This mentality defined my rise to the top and fall to the bottom. While I am ultimately proud of what I accomplished, there's also a lot to be said about what I learned, the downsides of my lifestyle, and what I would have done differently. Until recently, I never allowed myself to be honest about those things because I felt an obligation to play the part and not show vulnerability publicly. When asked about my experiences at an interview or on stage at a conference, I would perpetuate the same heroic narratives that everyone else does in business. Often, I'd be speaking to young, impressionable people, and I believed this made me sound smart and strong. I would play the role of the impervious young CEO they all wanted to see. I would hide my humanity and struggles. I refused to show any sign of what I perceived as weakness. I wanted people to aspire to be me. I suppose I still do, but for different reasons. I've chosen to no longer perpetuate the superhero myths of entrepreneurship. Instead, I now want to embark on a campaign of vulnerability and honesty in an industry that currently lacks both. What you're about to hear is the beginning of that journey, and I hope it makes this book feel a little more approachable than others in the genre. I didn't create a well-known billion-dollar company. I am not famous. I didn't have anyone backing me. I'm just a guy from a suburb in Detroit who fell upwards through the world of startups. The idea of bearing my soul to the world is, I admit, unnerving. I worry about the damage it can do to my reputation and relationships, at least from anyone who wants to judge me for my behavior when I was making too much money at too young an age, or for what it feels like to have a drug and sex-fueled bender you almost don't wake up from, or some of the vile ways mental illness takes hold of your mind as you try to handle the stress and pressure of running a tech company with lightning-fast growth. There were many times I almost buried this book in the ground, but I stopped myself from doing so because of the important discourse I hope it can foster. In order to facilitate those discussions, I've chosen to lead by example. That is why you're now listening to this. This is a true story based on my best recollections over 3 decades of my life. In some instances, I had to compress or rearrange events to facilitate the narrative. Because hundreds of people involved in my story were innocent bystanders, I've taken certain liberties by changing some names and recreated dialogue to protect their privacy. Others don't deserve that courtesy. Enjoy. Chapter 1. Vegas, 2014.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?